At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the Endless Aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations.
Circuit World has 9-piece living room packages at incredible prices. Get this stylish sofa and love seat, 3 tables, 2 lamps, 43-inch 4K TV, and stand, all for only $1699.99 or $129.99 a month. Or get this 9-piece living room and reclining sofa and reclining love seat, now only $1999.99 or $149.99 a month. These packages are amazing. Stop in today at one of our 5 locations and get the furniture you've always wanted at Circuit World.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into Inside the Smoky Mountain Conference. Jake West, joined by Brandon Stevens. We are heading into Week 3 of Smoky Mountain Conference play, coming off some really good games last week, some real slobber knockers in the Smoky Mountain Conference up until this point. Murphy and Robbinsville went all the way down to the wire. So did Swain and Hayesville. Cherokee and Andrews went all the way into overtime. So 3 great games in the conference last week. Brandon, where do you want to start?
Man, I think one of the bigger games, obviously, I think that looking at that close game out there, Cherokee Andrews. I mean, you can start about anywhere, or the Swain Hayesville game was definitely an exciting one, right down to the finish. I think, as you mentioned, Robbinsville, Murphy, but Cherokee Andrews, that was kind of an exciting football game that. I think I nailed right on the head last week. Maybe it wasn't necessarily the overtime pick, but I said 21-14. There you go. And in this one, you see several people coming back healed for Cherokee. And I think on the men's, maybe not quite at 100%, or he was right in there, but you start seeing Everett Tatham roll back into the lineup. And this week, he should be right back into the fold. But what an exciting game. And I think that was one of the wow games that people were saying, this is going to be an exciting football game as both teams suffering just a little bit.
Yeah, Andrews nearly pulled that one out. Cherokee comes away the victor. I think Tatham was stopped short on like the 3-yard line there at the final play of the game. Tatham came back, kind of rejuvenated the offense. He did throw 2 picks, but they put the ball in the air 10 times. He had, I think 70 yards on the ground and had a touchdown. Offense just flows well when he's out there on the field, and you hope that he stays healthy and the Wildcats can continue to get back on track. I know you lost another close one, but your offense looked a lot more competent in this one than they have when they haven't had Tatham out there. I mean, he's a game manager and a game changer for this Andrews team, and going forward, it's going to be great if they can keep him out there on the field. And as far as Cherokee's concerned, I mean, their quarterback, 11 for 23, Michael Driver, 190 yards, a touchdown. Right. He also had 2 touchdowns on the ground. And they finally got some other guys involved in the rushing game, Santiago and Lineberry. Elijah Lineberry had a great game through the air, 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. So still doing the bulk of their work through the air, but they are getting the ground game working to try to open things up in the passing game.
Before we go any further, I think there's one real salient theme that goes through all three of these games that are in the Smoky Mountain Conference, and it's take care of the football. The turnovers, the fumbles, and then you sprinkle in a few penalties just on top of that. But in the next game that we look into, whether it's Swain and Hayesville, 6 turnovers, some of those penalties, interceptions. Murphy Robbinsville. Maybe Murphy didn't have as many turnovers, but the turnovers came at key times. And then Robbinsville clustered with at least 5 turnovers toward the end of the football game. That some of these games you may have looked at if you held on to the ball, if you executed a little bit better, or had a little bit better blocking or something in any scheme. Maybe you pulled away, you didn't go into overtime, or maybe you walked away the winner, or maybe you walked away a few extra touchdowns on the scoreboard. But as we go through this, I think the next game, I was kind of surprised about the number of turnovers and some of the number of fumbles or fumbles that were recovered, and you just can't do that in football games. But did you kind of see that through some of these football games?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it was rainy, nasty night, Friday night, which I'm sure attributed to some of the interceptions and the slippery ball, attributed to some of the fumbles and things like that. But let's hear what head coach James Phillips has to say about his team's game last week, the overtime game versus Cherokee, and then what they expect this Friday night.
Coach Phillips, good to visit with you. First of all, been a day or two since you and I talked. How's the team looking?
Good. I mean, obviously trying to rebound from a couple tough weeks. Nobody likes to lose. I always tell the boys, losing doesn't hurt losers; it hurts winners. So we've been hurt the last couple of weeks. I mean, these kids are winners, so they don't take the losing kindly, and we're just trying to get better.
Coming into this, you've had a couple of conference games. Conference looks pretty strong all the way around, and getting through it, obviously got another conference game. But just a word about overall Smoky Mountain Conference.
Well, again, I mean, I think you said it. I mean, from top to bottom, I feel like there's no weak link, I guess, if you will, this year. I feel like every team from top to bottom has the strengths about them. Robbinsville's obviously kind of clawed their way and earned their way to the cream of the crop right now at this point in the season. But I mean, Murphy, Swain, Cherokee, in us, I feel like are tough football teams, and we're all trying to get better. That's pretty obvious by the records, and nobody's 0-7 or 1-6. So it's a tough conference this year. Maybe tougher this year than the last couple of years.
Robbinsville, got them this week.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Really solid football team. Again, I've got a lot of respect. I say this, but I mean it sincerely. I've got a lot of respect for Coach Walsh and his staff and what they do with their program over there. The kids are well coached and they execute. And they're a tough football team. They've obviously got some high standards for themselves and high goals. So we're trying to work towards going over there and competing with them. And we know it's going to be difficult, but we've been through difficult before. So.
Hey, but real quickly before we go, I'm glad to see a little editorial here. I'm glad to see Everett Tatham's back.
Yeah, it's been he's obviously been QB1 for us before he got hurt, and he's worked hard rehab wise and trying to get back and trying to fill out last week. He was on a short week with Cherokee and then came in with limited reps and thought he played hard and performed well, and we've had him obviously every rep this week, so that's been good with the offense, and I'm glad as a junior, for his sake too, that he's been able to get back. You hate to see a kid with any kind of injury or
right.
But yeah, it's definitely been kind of a shot in the arm for us. So
all right. Well, good luck and go Wildcats.
Thank you. Go Cats.
think he hit the nail on the head when he said Tatum being back as a shot in the arm for him. It kind of just looks like they've got a different demeanor about them. They've got all their guys out there. Rose is healthy. Tatum, like he says, taking all the first team snaps this week in practice. But they do have a tall task ahead of them against the Robbinsville team coming off a 5-point victory against Murphy. Robbinsville, another team plagued by turnovers as well. I mean, you could say that about all Smith Mountain Conference teams last week, but turned it over 5 times, coming off an emotional victory in Murphy, a game that was closer than it should have been due to all the turnovers. They squeak one out, give Murphy a chance to win it at the end because they fumble with a minute left, minute and a half left. They put the ball on the ground and give Murphy a chance to go down and win it. But the defense stands tall. Before we talk about Andrews and Murphy, or Andrews and Robbinsville, you were there Friday night. The game was on fyntv.com. It was a great game. I mean, could say game of the week if all the other games weren't so good. I mean, every game, whatever game you were at, you probably say that's the game of the week. But what's Robbinsville got to do differently this week to kind of build on last week? Because they played a good football game, just turnovers plagued them.
Well, initially, like what I was talking about is, I think even Cutler Adams said to us in his post-game comments, this is a tough game. It was a tough team. We knew they were going to be tough. Murphy's always tough against us. We're going to be tough against them. Yeah, it came down to taking care of the ball. And I don't want to sound like a broken record or just like, okay, we'll stencil that into every conversation we have about each one. But that's what it really broke down to, Jake, was making sure that you took care of the ball. I mean, when you see Cutler Adams, and I love to watch that guy run, and when you actually see it in person, it's beautiful. How he comes out and there was a couple of 50-yard runs that he made, whether it was for touchdown. The last touchdown he made was like 63 yards. He just breaks free, and part of that was the line was beginning to open up, and they spread Murphy just a bit. Just a little slip between the cup and the lip, and he's gone. But and probably to put that game away when you're 26-21. And Robbinsville had the momentum eking down, but then boom, there pops out a fumble, and Murphy's back into the ball game. So taking care of the ball, because easily they could have Robbinsville had that option to get down and go into victory formation and move it, but otherwise you turn it around about a minute. What was it? Minute 10, minute 20 that was left in the football game. And Murphy's like eking up the field. They had one great pass that slipped out of the hands of Zach Scogan, and that would have been huge. But then on the other hand, turning it around, Murphy had a fumble that could have actually won that football game. But this week you asked the question of what does Robbinsville have to do differently. I don't know that there is much of a different formula that going forward. Hey, you said it Friday night. You got to ride the horse. You got to ride that Cutler Adams run down the field. Maybe a few other things that you exercise with Chase Calhoun or a pass to Roman Jones that we saw. I don't know that you do much different. You run Cutler till he can't run anymore and make all the touchdowns. But the big key there is make sure that you execute what Robbinsville turned over the football on downs. Had a couple of interceptions. Donovan threw 2 interceptions to Will Joyner, and then you coughed up the football twice. So take care of it, and it's sewed up. My prediction on that football game was 21-14 last week, but wow, the opportunities, and maybe not looking at the weather, it came up a little bit closer than that. But I don't know. The direct answer to your question is, take care of the doggone football.
And I think if I recall, I asked Cutler Adams that question in the postgame interview. Let's hear from him and his postgame comments immediately following that game.
Cutler, 26-21, grinded out, gutted out win. You had probably over 200 total yards through the ground through the air and on the ground. Just what was clicking tonight for you guys? Seemed like, you put up 2 quick touchdowns and then Murphy crawls back in it, but you guys fight to the end. What was going right for you guys?
Well, we never gave up. That's the biggest thing. Our line stepped up tonight. We got better, and we just fought to the end. We know Murphy's going to bring it. And it's the best game of the year, rivalry game, and it just turned out good because we never gave up.
They crawled back in it at the end. What do you work on next week heading into Andrews?
Just got to get everybody healthy. We're a little beat and banged up, but just keep working hard, keep getting better every week.
Carpenter did a good job. He had the 2 interceptions, but he did a good job there at the end, standing up, staying in there and getting you guys to where you needed to be. And then the defense comes up with a huge stop at the end. Silvers bats it down in the end zone.
Yes,
it's easy to play with seniors like that.
Yeah. This group's wanted it for a long time. They all come to summer workouts during the summer. We're just ready for this game. After what happened last year, we was heartbroken, but we just kept fighting and never gave up. We was ready for tonight.
All right, Color. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for tonight they were. I mean, anytime you survive that many turnovers, shows you the difference that the score could have been, if they were able to hold on to the football. Because they came out of the gate, like I said, firing, scored 2 quick touchdowns, went up 12-0. The line played great, like Cutler said. Cutler ran like a stallion out there. The only thing, if you were to critique Robbinsville, their line has stepped up. They have been a little banged up. Their line has fixed some things, and they look very good. They got to figure out, and at this point in the year, it's probably not – you're not going to go get somebody out of the hallways or off the soccer team that can kick you some extra points. But that's the special teams is the only facet of the game where Robbinsville is not, head and shoulders above other teams in the conference.
Yeah, that short game, it's almost like in golf. They can hit the long ball. They've got Cutler Adams who can go from the 1 yard line down to the end zone, but put them on the 3 yard line to run that 2-point conversion, and it was not successful. Murphy ate that up, and so I think as you saw early in the game, it was like 12-0 at a certain point. Then it was 18. So back and forth. Yeah, you've got to get somebody to put it through the upright. Since Cody Klein, or you've had that before, but it's just never been the big thing. And you have to look at that and say, yeah, that is a very important part of your football game. It's only 1 point, but it makes a difference. Or it could be a point where you get down to 3 points, but special teams are a big piece there, and I think you're right.
So, Robbinsville home game against Andrews at the Big Oaks Friday night. What's your score prediction for that one?
Okay, so let me flip over the sheet here, and just given that, I think that a couple of my thought processes going into it, you've got Everett Tatham back. That puts a little more wind into the sails of the Andrews Wildcats, and maybe he's running. If he wasn't running on all 8 cylinders last week, he could be this week. And I get a little more soap and water feeling about him and the team coming into it. Uphill battle. I think that Robbinsville, again, going to really work diligently to get make up some yards and burn the grass. I still give this one to Robbinsville, and I think that doing some of the averages, looking at who's back in, and your team effort coming back up. Andrews shut out about a week or 2 ago with Swain County. You do a little bit better last week, but it's my prediction is somewhere around 35-17 Robbinsville. Because I think Robbinsville is going to want to make up a little bit of ground. They could, and they'll clear up those turnovers. They'll take care of the ball. Yep. And so, but a balance there. That's probably the spread that I'm going to take, give or take.
I think Robbinsville's on a revenge tour of sorts this year. They get embarrassed by Murphy last year at the Big Oaks, come back, beat them out on David Gentry Field. They lose to Andrews last year. They after the loss of, and I think that's the game that Carpenter was injured in, I believe. So I think they're, leaving nothing but burnt bridges behind them on their way through conference play right now. I think they got the big win against Murphy. These seniors have lost to Andrews, and they don't want that. They don't want to go out on that note. They're going to want to rectify things and get back to where they think they should be, which is the top of the conference. And I think I don't know. I think the score is going to be a little more one-sided than I'd say more like 40-6, 40-7, something like that. Maybe Andrews scores a touchdown at the end, but I think Robbinsville is going to be really prepared for this one. I don't think they're going to be, it sets up for Robbinsville to rattle off victories in 3 straight games against tough opponents, Murphy, Andrews, Swain, and then they're undoubtedly the number 1 seed coming out of the Smoky Mountain Conference. So I think Coach Walsh is going to have these Black Knights heads screwed on straight, and I think Andrews is, take them back means a lot, yes, but I just think, can't get in the way of a team on a mission, and I think that's what Robbinsville is right now. You heard Cutler, the senior class has wanted it for a long time, and I think, not much is going to stand in their way. So I'm going to go probably 40-7 is what I'm going to say. It's at the Big Oaks. I don't think it's senior night because they have one more game at home against Swain County the next week. So I think I don't know. I just don't think Andrews' defense is going to be able to stop Cutler. Murphy couldn't stop Cutler. He had over 200 yards on the ground, and it was wet and rainy, and it's probably going to be wet and rainy again on Friday night. So as long as Robbinsville can hold on to the football, I think they run away with this one early on.
What do we do next?
Hayesville, Cherokee.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the Swain Hayesville football game?
Yeah, we can start there.
All right.
That game went all the way down to the wire. Hayesville, we said their missing link was being able to convert through the air, and they had the most passing yards they have had all year on Friday night with Tate Roberts going through the air. Him and Isaac Chandler had a perfect connection on Friday night. Chandler had over 120 receiving yards, and Roberts looked pretty good moving the ball. Hayesville had some players banged up. Swain County, bend but don't break. They pull it out at the end, and I know you got to talk to Coach Sherman Holt, and I'm sure he had a lot to say about that ball game Friday night. So you want to listen to him first before we go any further?
I will say this, just going into his comments. I think that looking at that, one of the things he probably will talk about or does talk about is, all right, we've got to clean up some of the sloppy play. And because at the halftime, wasn't it 7-0 in favor of Hayesville? And really, Hayesville had the upper hand. And this was a game of errors as well. Again, Jake, if I'll just cut you to the chase. If you're going to ask me, like, well, what does Swain have to do differently with Murphy this week? This game illustrates taking care of the football, because it was 7 fumbles or so, but I think that or 7 turnovers, and a couple of those were fumbles, but then there were 3 that Hayesville recovered and Swain was able to pick back up. But you're clean up your play. But yeah, roll the tape there with our visit with Uncle Sherman.
Coach Holt, first, before we talk about Murphy, and this is going to be a big week, rivals and that sort of thing. And we talked last week about being 6-0, and you said the best thing was about being 7-0. But man, it took a little bit to become 7-0.
Yeah, our kids, they responded well at halftime. We, hats off to Hayesville. They had a good plan. And, we struggled a little bit in the first half, had some ball security issues, and definitely got to clean that up, if we want to take another step in the right direction. But, Hayesville, pretty good defensively. I think I said that last week coming into it, that I felt like their defense was a real strong part of their team. And, we challenged their kids at halftime to, just stay the course, keep doing what we were doing. And, we finally were able to sustain drives in the second half, and that was kind of what made the difference for us. And finally found the end zone there in the fourth quarter 3 times, and so that was big to finish a game that didn't start the way we wanted it to, and showed a lot of character in our kids and the grit that they have just to finish a game that we had not played very well in to begin with, to finish it the right way and come out of there with a win, because Coach McClure does a good job over there, and he's got those kids playing hard. But just hats off to our kids and just the amount of adversity they faced to overcome that and come out there with a win.
One phrase, Murphy Bulldogs.
It's a big week. It's kind of that old school rivalry. Been around a long time. There's been a lot of good football players played in the Murphy Swain games, and a lot of deciding factors on conference championships throughout the years. And so anytime you have a rivalry game, you got to be a little more locked in through the week. Preparation has to be good. And, we're just going to preach the same things we've been preaching, taking care of the football, performing at a high level of efficiency, executing the game plan well. And, you're going to get 2 really good football teams that, want to beat each other in a rivalry. And so just going to have to take it one day at a time to get prepared and come in with a good solid game plan. And, just hope our kids can stay focused and stay the course and keep doing what we've been doing. But I look for a good game. Coach Watson does a good job. He's got a good group of kids over there. Hunter Stalkup's one of the, better offensive weapons in the mountains. And so we got to do a good job defensively of kind of containing what they do offensively. And, defensively, you watch them, they fly to the football and they tackle well. And so it's just going to be a good old-fashioned SMC game. And, Swain Murphy always means a lot to the people here in Swain and to the people in Murphy. And so looking forward to it, and just thankful we get the opportunity to play the game that we all love.
Good luck, Maroon Devils.
Yes, sir.
Coach,
So before we get to them, his comments about Murphy, his comments about Hayesville. Hayesville is a good football team defensively. One of the things that he said about them, and they've got Taylor McClure back there running the football hard. Hayesville, man, 2 weeks in a row, just grinding it out. Can't get the win at the end. But I think that changes this week. I think they come out on top against Cherokee in a tight one, probably 28-21, something like that. Cherokee, talked about them, looked good last week, moved the ball through the air well, finally got some stuff going on the ground against Andrews. But Hayesville, beaten, banged up, battered, but I think they come out victorious this week.
If you can keep some people, I think, some people that I liked in that Swain Hayesville game, if you can keep the Trey Graves, the Dawson Devanes, and he does Ironman work, Taylor McClure. I think he actually got banged up a bit in that football game. But when you've got Trey Graves getting out there, 8 solo tackles, Dawson's right behind him. Still, that's going to be your workforce to try to stop Cherokee Braves. The big question here with Cherokee Braves is it's kind of like a little orb. Ordinarily, you would expect to see how some of these plays, the teams that we've mentioned a little while through this, Andrews, the Robbinsvilles, the Swains, what's consistent about them? It's, all right, Cutler Adams, we know he's going to run the football. Dalton Rhodes, know he's going to run the football. Murphy, know that it's probably going to be a Hunter Stalkup. Herein, Cherokee is almost in a unique position to where you don't know what's coming at you because, and then part of that is, probably Coach Hawkins is trying to keep you on your toes, but he's having to put different characters into different places. It's not always going to be a Motto Grant, or he's having to shift the characters because his stage is changing a bit, and that kind of keeps you on your toes a bit too. So some of these players, but I still like their good defense, and those are a couple of things that I think about with this football game. Otherwise, the other folks back there, the Michael Mauneys across that line, they're getting into the backfield and doing a pretty good job. And you're going to have to with Cherokee, because if they're not running it, then Michael Driver's going to sling it, and that'll be a big difference in the game. So defense, I like some of these guys at what they're doing, but the health is the key issue on both sides.
Agreed. This game being at Hayesville, I think Swain found out last week how hard it is to play at Hayesville, and
Right.
we're going to see some more weather, just like we saw last Friday night, I believe, tomorrow night. So I think that favors Hayesville as well. They keep it on the ground and pound. Cherokee going to try to put the ball in the air. That's hard to do in a rainy situation. So I think, I'm going with Hayesville in this one. I think they've paid their dues the last 2 weeks. They get a win against Cherokee. Last time these two teams played at Hayesville was one of the best games I've ever seen. I think if you go back on YouTube, you can watch that. We did it live on FYN TV. Came down to Hayesville got an onside kick recovery, and then scored and won that game. And it was a tough one, and I expect this one to be, more of the same. These two teams always play it tough.
I'm going to go a little bit different. I don't think we're too far off, but this is not going to be to me. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a high scoring football game or a high scoring affair. Just a little advantage, Cherokee Braves in this one. I think both these teams are looking to grind out and get that conference win, and the Cherokee Braves got it obviously, but in a tough one, their grit taking to an overtime win. This one's going to be close. I'll say 17-14 Cherokee.
Yeah, I'd say you're not far off. I think whoever does win this game, it'll be a one-possession football game, and it really just boils down to how banged up is Hayesville, because we know Swain and Hayesville, there was a couple injured Yellow Jackets came out of the game, and that one, like you mentioned, even Taylor McClure was one of them. So how healthy is Hayesville going to be on Friday night is a question that can only be answered when the whistle blows. So another close one.
I'm sorry. But also Cherokee is in that same boat, and I think that some of the word that I get back to that it's not the greatest health right now, because there may be a few concussions that they're working on. But again, this one comes down to grit and how much you want it.
So nothing else to talk about, I guess, except for Swain and Murphy, another chapter etched in that rivalry book. You heard Coach Holt's comments. Let's hear from Coach Watson. We've got a couple more interviews to play. We've got Hunter Stalkup, Joshua Collins, and then we'll end the show with Gary Ayers, the voice of the Maroon Devils, talking about this rivalry and how far it's come. But let's hear from Coach Watson, and then we'll make our picks and let things play out.
Coach, first of all, you've had a couple of conference games and now getting ready to play the third. What do you think about the conference overall? I mean, you haven't played everybody, but it's tough out there.
Yeah, we've seen most people on film too to this point. So I think this conference, year in and year out, is the toughest conference in the state. I tell people that at the first of the year, and I tell people that every year. Every team in this conference can win a conference championship, and every team in this conference can beat another team any given Friday night. So you always got to be prepared. You always got to be ready to play every Friday night in this conference.
Would you have it any other way? I mean, by asking that, what's rivalry week like leading up to this game?
It would be nice to be a little easier, but it makes it a little more fun on us, I think. And it's more of a challenge playing against really good teams and really good coaches in this league. And that's probably what makes this league's so good is that the head coaches are so good. And, rivalry week is a special week for us. I know it is for Swain County as well. It's just one of those times a year when we're always, you're always looking forward to the Swain week. It kind of starts feeling like football weather when you get to Swain week, and it is here. And I know it is in Bryson City as well. And we're always, all about tradition here at Murphy High School, and Swain is as well. So there's always a big game between us and them.
Swain County, what are you thinking?
Good football team, obviously undefeated coming to this point. It's played some really good football teams as well. Got an outstanding running back, and they're big up front, and they do a good job of running their offense and kind of mix it up on you on defense, so they make it tough on you to get a handle on kind of what they're doing. But like I said, they're very well coached, and Coach Holt's doing an outstanding job, and they're going to be a tough football team.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Dogs.
What can you say there? Joseph Watson, and Coach Holt talking about things, but whether they're Bulldogs or Maroon Devils, both these guys and both these teams are long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs this week, because this is the nervous, and I think what he talks about, the rivalry, getting down to it, it's okay, well, you beat us last year, we beat you this year. It's sweeter. Well, then next year they beat you. It's the bittersweet, and it's the rivalry part of this has been long and deep. But Jake, what makes it tick, and what makes it tick this year comes down to a few key elements, and it's very elementary. For the Murphy Bulldogs, Hunter Stalka, you got to stop him. The big number 28. He makes it look pretty. He can get past you if it's not on the run. There may be a little screen pass that Brady Grant dumps to him. And if you're not watching closely, I think it's Friday the 13th, Jake, and all these, and this one kind of comes up, and it's going to be a really cool Friday the 13th. The one person that the black cat that turns from a bulldog into a black cat and crosses the path in front of you is Cameron Clem. Be careful watching that, because he'll burn you. And so Brady Grant's not a bad passer. Murphy defense is really key. One person that has been cast type for the past few years as a kicker and a specialist is Will Joyner. 2 interceptions. He'll get into the backfield and burn you. I like his play. Big guys up front, Brody Orton and Will, and a couple other guys across the linebackers, Cadence Leatherwood, they'll get back and sting you. The big guys from the front line, they don't let too much. This is going to be a tough, if you analyze it from the Murphy perspective. Turn it around the other way. Swain, got to stop Josh Collins. And when you see somebody who has a 300-plus rushing capacity, you've got Reese Winchester who goes down. He can wildcat it. He can sling the ball. He does different work on the other side as a linebacker. He and Skeet Cook and Mason Cochran, they don't even let sunshine get through the line. So there's some big guys up front. Insay Uford, I've talked about him for a long time. Cole Weichel. There's Grady Lewis. He's helping lead the team in some stops. So this is an entirely big packed team. And the one person that in my opinion is underutilized a little bit, and I want to see if in the Swain County area, Josiah Gillespie, he can make some things happen. I think be careful that you watch a few things rolling around. So both teams, Pat, are you healthy? Are you wealthy and wise? Okay, then if you are, then take care of the doggone football. And that's been the problem with some of these, both of these teams. And that's just plain and simple. Get down to playing over in Murphy or in Bryson City, wherever you play. You play in a cow pasture. Both these teams just need to take care of the football and execute well. Swain, some of the things that they've been playing, will they spread you out? And of course, all those guys in Bryson City kind of crane their head and say, "That's witchcraft. We run the veer here." But it's helped out, especially when Reese went out a couple of weeks ago, and you were flipping the ball off to Josh and having him run a few plays. Some things that the Murphy Bulldogs have had to deviate. They've had a few injuries here and there. You haven't had Trenton Russell to run the jet sweep, and you put in Will Shore. So it's everybody's dealing with being banged up. Everybody's dealing with next man up and dealing with what you have. This is going to be just a good football game. I say this. I think at the end of regulation, it's give a little advantage to Swain County because you're playing at Memorial Stadium. Anytime, I'd say the same thing if we're playing in Murphy. Give a little edge to the Murphy Bulldogs, but it's going to be a tough game. The series comes down. I think this is like the either like the 81st or the 80. It doesn't really matter. I think Swain County has the advantage in this football game. Just real quickly, just to be a nerd, 41, 33, and 2 is the overall series record between these two teams. Murphy has won the last 5 games, and even with that one,
I think that's the longest streak.
It is the longest streak. And I know that Joseph Watson telling his team, boys, let's make it 6 in a row. Sherman Holt's telling his boys, got to stop this, and let's get our series going back and build. We've got it's who's going to have the lucky charm versus witchcraft in this one. I think on Friday the 13th. Who takes care of the football? You can't have 6 or 7 turnovers. Murphy can't have the penalties that it's had. Those are just some elementary type things, and I think it comes down to I think fans don't be surprised, and I'm not calling this just to sit the fence, but I think at regulation, it could easily be a 14-14 football game, and we go into overtime. We've seen that before, although this one, I'm going to give just a little edge to the Murphy Bulldogs. I'll say that if that comes down to pass, the way that they played against the Robbinsville Black Knights, and they've worked on their execution. They had that one pass going down to Hunter Stalkup, trying to get him into the end zone, tipped it away. They want that one back. They're going to come back. This is a team that'll edge to the end, and they don't want that to die. Of course, I don't think anybody wants to lose. I don't think Murphy Bulldogs or the Swain County Maroon Devils wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, let's lose this and we'll win next year." But I say 21-14 in overtime, Murphy.
Swain County had what? They have 7 turnovers last week.
Yes.
Something
well, they had
crazy.
If you total it up, there were. You can't really count the 7th. They had 6, I think, official because they recovered one of their own fumbles. If you ask Sherman Holt, he's like, well, I count that as a turnover, and kind of it is, but just answer your question.
That's an insane number, and that's been, past 2 years, Swain hasn't been able to hold on to the football, and it's plagued them. Can't win football games like that. I know they did win last week, but you can't win football games turning the ball over. That's something that definitely has to be rectified. And I don't care if you've got all your guys going to class with a football taped to their arm. You've got to figure out something, some way, somehow to hold on to the football. It's going to be conditions probably going to mimic what we saw last Friday night. This game is at home for Swain. Hey, you mentioned Cameron Clem being at the Black Cat, kind of the guy that the Devils don't want to see coming. I'd say on the defensive side of things, the Black Cat that Reese Winchester is going to have to watch out for is the duo of Will Joyner and Ryan Payne, leading the conference in interceptions. Their ball hawks always got their eyes on the quarterback's eyes, watching where the ball is going to go. And if Swain does decide to spread it out, like you said, those guys are going to have to make a huge impact if Murphy wants to win this football game. Now, the Black Cat, as far as Murphy is concerned, is going to be the man, Joshua Collins. And we've got an interview with Josh that we will play here, and when we get back, I'll finish, kind of where I think this game's going to go. But let's hear from Mr. Collins.
All right, Josh, tell me, how's the team doing so far this season?
The team's doing good. We had a lot of injuries for like the first 3 or 4 games, but we're getting all those guys back. Pretty much, I'd say we're about 95%, like health-wise, getting everybody back, and just a lot of key guys to what we do is coming back, so that's good.
Well, before we talk about Murphy, let me ask you. This is a really cool conference because everybody's tough. You guys found that out, Hayesville.
Yes,
So,
sir.
what are you thinking about overall Smoky Mountain Conference? It's pretty tough.
It's never a week where you go in thinking you're going to win. You just don't ever know. So every week you come in with who's next, and just that mentality of, all right, you got to buckle up again. There's no off weeks.
Murphy Bulldogs. What are you thinking?
Tough team. They're really well coached and disciplined, and they got a lot of great athletes.
All right, go Maroon Devils.
Yes, sir. Go Maroon Devils.
Tough team is we're getting into coach talk now. All these guys kind of saying the same thing. Tough team. Don't want to give anybody bulletin board material, but I think that guy right there is going to be that guy right there. And the fact that this game is in Bryson City is the reason that the Bulldogs win streak gets snapped. I think instead of 6-0, 8-0 is going to be the streak we talk about, because Swain County, I think, wins this football game at home because of Josh Collins. Collins runs just as hard as Cutler Adams. Cutler probably faster than him, but still he runs just as hard. And the defensive front for Swain is a lot better than the defensive front for Robbinsville. Those guys get in the backfield. They're going to, Brady Grant, when he drops back, he's going to have to keep his head on a swivel, because the defensive front for Swain with Ufert and Sutton and those guys getting back there after him, it could be a long night for Brady and Stalkup as well, because those guys just crash in there. Don't let guys get to the second level. And I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Murphy offense Friday night because of that. And I think Collins looking for another big night on the ground. I think Swain wins this one. It's going to be tight because it always is when these two teams play. But I think maybe 21-14, something like that, coming down to the end. But I just think the defensive front for Swain is going to be the difference. And that's pretty much all it boils down to. I think they're going to overpower the Murphy offensive line. And like I said, could be tough sledding for the Bulldogs this week. But I still think it's going to be close. But Collins punches one in at the end, and Swain takes this one.
I like how this conversation rolls out, and it's kind of the same way the players are posting it. Murphy's not going to give any pinup information or any pinup bulletin board stuff for Swain, and vice versa. And they're complementary to one another. But I think that works out. And are we good copying it, bad copying it here at Team Athland? No, I think that this one is entirely tough to call. Because
I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins. The only way that I'd be surprised in this ball game is if it's won by more than 2 scores.
Now that would surprise me, really. Or if you woke up on Saturday morning and went to your news source or sports source and it said this team 35-3 or 42 to nothing. Yeah, I think that. Everybody on that team got sick, and everybody, or there's some Popeye spinach somewhere that somebody ran into, and it just happened. But no, I think that because you have so many good players and so many different things to unlock this door, it's a mystery, and it's really difficult for us talking heads, as coaches, players to kind of predict. So go watch the game, go cheer. But I think that just the initial piece here, no, trying to take one side or the other. I think it's going to be interesting because I don't think it's going to end in regulation. I think that this one's going to overtime, and but it doesn't surprise me to say, all right, or maybe it does end in regulation, and Josh Collins just burns up the field, turns the field into gold for the Maroon Devils.
Let's hear from Gary Ayers. I'm going to take the last thought of the day this week, Brandon. I think last week I said that Brady Grant, was going to have to play better than his opposing quarterback, and if Murphy was going to have a shot in that one, and I think ultimately he did, and that's why they were able to keep that game close and have a chance to win it at the end. We saw Brady Grant grow up for the Murphy Bulldogs right before our eyes in that second half. He missed some throws, but as a sophomore, he played some great football and put his team in a position to win that football game. I think this week, as far as that's concerned, it's going to come down to Hunter Stockman, Joshua Collins, and who's going to challenge Cutler Adams for Player of the Year. I think this is one of them is going to put their hat in the ring, and it is going to come down to who separates himself in this one. Both of them have had great careers, and they've had great seasons leading up to this point. I think this is going to be has an opportunity to be a separator for both of them coming into this one. But
just a quick butt in here, just to give a little intro to Gary Ayers. One of the reasons we chose this, Gary's watched a lot of Smoky Mountain Conference football. He's been a radio announcer for a number of. We talk about this a little bit later into the interview. I won't spoil that, but I'll say this: congratulations, Gary Ayers. He's been inducted, or will be inducted, November 11th into the Western Carolina University Athletic Hall of Fame. That'll be at the halftime of the East Tennessee State University football game with the Catamounts. And he's been a long time Western Carolina voice of the Catamounts. He's been voice of the Pisgah Bears. He's for a couple seasons over Franklin Panthers. But most notably, he's Gary the Bear Ayers for Swain County.
Okay, fans, here at Swain County, and of course at Memorial Stadium, just under Gary Ayers' press box, we meet up with Gary Ayers. Gary, first of all, how you doing these days?
Hey, doing great. It's a great year, Brandon. It's a great year to be in the Smoky Mountain Conference, as always. And of course, our Maroon Devils are having a really, really good year. 7-0 on the season. So yeah, life is good.
That can't be too bad. But hey, one of the reasons we stopped by to talk to you is, hey, it's for Murphy fans, it's Swain week. For Swain fans, it's Murphy week, and that means it's a big doggone week.
Yes, it is. And that's all you have to say, Brandon: Swain versus Murphy. Because for so many years, going back especially into the 70s up to the present time, most of the time the Smoky Mountain Conference championship either went through Swain or it went through Murphy. We've had some years that Rosman won it. Andrews had a great year last year. Robbinsville's had some fantastic years. But for so many years, Murphy and Swain were the 2A teams before they got moved down to 1A. And it was always Swain and Murphy going head to head to head with iconic coaches, with some of the best players ever. So this rivalry, to me, has no better rivalry in the mountains.
And there's a lot of gold in between those years too.
A lot of gold indeed. So many teams have been involved in that, and so many state championships.
And even if they didn't win the state championship, they were there in the game.
They were. We've had so many great players, as we mentioned, over the years, like the Heath Schulers, and of course, like this year, Hunter Stockup is a great player. So many guys that really have stood out over the years. But the coaches and the friendships you make over all those years, even some of the PA announcers.
Well, no, there's one PA announcer that says, there's a difference between heaven and Hades, and that's 48 miles. But what do you think when you hear that? I mean, what makes this rivalry so special, do you think?
You know, I think because of the excellence both teams have shown over so many years, the tradition is unbelievable. And if you think about the Smoky Mountain Conference, we have more state championships than any conference in the state of North Carolina. The excellence, the tradition, the two communities that are so similar with like I just say, just hard-nosed, tough country boys who have really come together and make great teams.
Now there's some rivalries in Western North Carolina. I think of like Morganton with Freedom, and that's Fat Friday, or right. Tuscola Pisgah, a Silva/Smoky Mountain Franklin rivalry, right. And even here in the Smoky Mountain Conference, I guess you get Cherokee Robbinsville, because there's Cherokee Indians that play in both those. There's a Murphy Hayesville. There's a Swain Silva. But this one kind of has to be real special.
I think this one is more special a little bit because the two iconic coaches, for one thing, with Coach Boyce Dietz and Coach David Gentry, had so many wins and so many state championships between the two. Now, I know Robbinsville is going to say, well, hey, we have a lot of state championships as well. I will say this, most of the Swain Murphy championships basically went through each other when Robbinsville was 1A. So there's a little different angle there. And I think just Swain Murphy, even when I was in high school back in the early 70s, when Murphy was great with Willie Brown, that takes you back a day or two. There are just so many storylines. We could go on and on and on for hours. Unfortunately, we don't have hours on this show, but so many great memories.
Well, any one particular game that comes to mind, or any one particular play, or anything that, whether it's a Murphy win or a Swain win, or anything that just pops up? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot there, because like you say, there's so many that come through here. And maybe even like that, it's like the night that Coach Gentry wants to march his team down the field and Coach Dietz locks the gate on him, or anything like that. Any funny story?
Yeah, there was one year I remember distinctly. Murphy was fantastic. They probably had the best team in the conference, as they proved later. They came over here to Swain in the regular season. I remember it was cold, and Swain won the game, and big upset. But then, just a couple of weeks later, Murphy had to come back to Swain in the state playoffs, and Murphy just unleashed all its weapons and won that playoff game. That shows you the rivalry and the intensity those two teams had.
And of course, Coach Gentry, as you mentioned, won his 414th out here. There's a lot of history here, a lot of great players. Looking forward to a Friday night with you guys and with Swain Murphy. But hey, I'll end it by saying, go Bulldogs, Swain, and go Swain Maroon Devils. I can't break it down anyway.
Just like in some movie, it's going to be Devil Dogs.
All right, a word with Coach, with announcer Gary Ayers, and probably a coach on the side, up in the side. But hey,
in my dreams.
But as we say, like, we go back up, and if you look, the press box, Gary Ayers press box. But one last little thing. You've been around in, let's see, how many schools have you announced? Now, you're more iconic here with Swain.
Right.
But a time or two at Silva.
Right.
Franklin.
Right.
You were Gary the Bear over at Pisgah for a little while. Then I think you've actually been to Silva. You filled in for me a time or two at Mustangs.
Yes, I've done some Cherokee games.
And one secret that he won't let out is that he actually broadcast a Murphy game as a Murphy announcer with Dennis Jean.
Yeah, I don't tell anybody that.
All right, Team FYN visits with Gary Ayers.